I woke before my alarm because the house had gone quiet the way a theater goes quiet before the curtain rises. No birds, no trucks on County 9, not even the neighbor's heat pump that usually coughed itself awake at 6:05 on the dot. 6:14 blinked blue on my nightstand. In the hallway, a sliver of light glowed under my daughter's door. Ellie's a reader. She hides flashlights like other kids hide candy. I killed the alarm before it chirped, stretched until something in my back popped, then shuffled to the kitchen to start coffee and the same lunch I've been making since first grade. PB&J baby carrots, a juice box with a joke on the straw. Cedar Ridge is a flat kind of Ohio town. Cul-de-sacs, a water tower, one Dairy Queen that never updated its sign. My ex moved to Phoenix a lifetime ago. It's been me and Ellie in the house that needs a roof. Ordinary, predictable, that's the kind of life you learn to love. I poured batter in the skillet for pancakes because Tuesdays are pancake days and the batter didn't make a sound. "Morning, Elle," I said without turning. "You're up early." A socked foot scuffed the tile. Couldn't sleep. My book got good again. "What's the line?" I slid her a plate. "The one you like." She pitched her voice all serious. "We venture not into the mist without a rope." Then she smirked because she knows I'm a sucker for dramatic children. Her hair was a dark storm that refused the brush. She pushed her glasses up and eyed the pancakes. "Did you burn them this time?" I pleaded, slightly guilty. I drizzled maple and handed over the spatula like a sword. "Judge." She cut into the edge. "Acceptable." It felt good, that tiny ceremony. We have a lot of tiny ceremonies. Pancake court. 3 horn honks meaning I'm outside at pickup. The grocery store high five in front of the cereal aisle. That's how single-parent houses keep from rattling apart. While she ate, I stepped to the sink and blinked. The backyard looked off. Not fog like we get in April that drifts in swirls off the river. This was flat, the color of old milk, and it didn't move. The maple was just a trunk with nothing behind it, like a bad green screen where they forgot to load the background. Ellie slid off her stool and pressed her nose to the glass. Her breath didn't leave a circle. "It looks like the world forgot to render." "Tech talk before 8 a.m. is illegal," I said. "Shoes, please." "We're leaving early cause I still have to grab coil nails for the warehouse." She made the face that says I'm old and boring and also right. We packed her backpack. Library book, science notebook, the little hand sanitizer shaped like a narwhal. I added a granola bar because Tuesdays run long with art club. When I cracked the front door, the fog did not roll in. It leaned, like weight against a door. The air smelled like rain without the rain. I told myself it was a temperature inversion, the kind the morning guys on AM radio talk about like they invented weather, and hustled Ellie to the car. Driving through it felt like pushing a boat through jello. The wipers didn't do anything. The world was narrowed to 2 red tail lights I followed like they were the path out of a cave. Ellie buckled in and went quiet, and when Ellie goes quiet you pay attention. "You okay, kid?" She nodded, then shook her head. "It's dumb. Dumb is allowed. It feels like we're being watched," she whispered, then tucked in closer to her backpack like she wished she hadn't said it. "Fog can't watch." "Physics," I said, and hoped my voice sounded more confident than my hands. At Cedar Ridge Elementary, the line of minivans braked in a concertina you could feel in your knees. Teachers in neon vests carried clipboards that made paper sound. That sound didn't reach the car. When I rolled Ellie's window a crack, the fog pushed a cool palm over her cheek. She scrunched up and rolled it back up herself. 3 honks at pickup, she said. 3 honks, I said. Art club ends at 4:30. Don't forget your glasses, lunch, homework, coat, she recited. She leaned over the center console and kissed my cheek the way she's starting to pretend is embarrassing. Bye, Dad. Her backpack disappeared first, then her shoulders, then gone. The door thumped closed. The world swallowed a child whole and didn't even ripple. I almost put the truck in park. Something in my chest said go get her. Right now. But being a parent is mostly choosing between fears, and I don't believe in making kids carry mine. 9 minutes later, I idled into the employee lot at Jefferson Fasteners. I've worked the line there long enough to know every squeak of the floor under my work boots. The big bay windows that usually blaze a warning to the morning sun were matte gray squares now. Inside, the usual chorus of "You see the game." And coffee's battery acid didn't bubble up. People looked at their phones. People didn't look at the windows. Carter Argyle, a supervisor whose real name I forget, called. "Line 3's short. Thompson's out." Yeah, Thompson's out a lot, but I didn't say it because Patty is poison. I strapped on ear protection, felt stupid because nothing sounded loud enough to need it, and started feed work. Nails in, nails out. The rhythm you can lose your brain inside of when you need to not think about your mortgage or that one math grade Ellie refuses to show you. At 11:08 my phone vibrated a weird pattern I'd never programmed. Everyone's phones did. The same second. We all stared down together like a congregation told to open to the same page. Emergency alert. Close all windows. Do not look outside. Shelter in place. Do not respond to voices at door or windows. Help is en route. Somebody laughed a laugh with no humor in it. Somebody else said, "That's gotta be a hack." Argyle cursed. I didn't think anything. I just tasted metal in the back of my throat like I had a mouthful of pennies. My phone rang before I could breathe. The caller ID said Cedar Ridge Elementary. "Mr. Carter." The voice was Principal Wilkes, but tight. "We've coached Ellie's soccer together. He calls me Mike unless he's yelling at a ref. You need to come now. Right now." "What's happened?" "Eyes down," he said, which is not something principals say. "Do not look outside. When you park, keep your eyes on your feet. Count steps. Ellie is ready by the front. We are not doing dismissal. We are doing retrieval. Do not." The line went loud with a kind of soft hiss like a TV with no channel, and then it went dead. I didn't ask Argyle. I stripped off my ear protection and dropped it on the nails and walked. At the front, Rita from reception wasn't at her desk, which is like finding out the automatic doors forgot how to open. The lobby glass was a gray blank. I pushed through it anyway, head down, the way you do when you don't want to meet someone's eye in a grocery store. The fog felt textured, not wet, static rough like peeling a sweater off in the dark. My hair tried to climb my scalp. I counted out loud. 1, 2, 3. My breath came back to me wrong, delayed a half beat. At the truck, my reflection in the window was dim, as if the glass had gotten thicker. Something tall was 3 car lengths to my right. I didn't look. I watched the lock. That was all there was in the world. The lock, the key, my hand shaking like I was trying to thread a needle in an earthquake. I got in, closed the door, swallowed a shout that wanted to be a prayer, and drove. Main Street was quiet in the way of church sanctuaries and freshly fallen snow. A sedan sat sideways at the intersection like the driver had second thoughts and walked away. The traffic light shone a bruised yellow that didn't color anything it touched. I stopped looking at anything except the red smear of the taillights ahead of me. If your world is an inch wide, that inch can still carry you home. The school doors were closed. A figure waited. Principal Wilkes moved the way people move on ice, careful, measured, keeping his weight low. He didn't look at me, he looked at the ground. "Two honks," I said through the crack of my window, because routine has gravity. He didn't smile. "Keep the engine running. Do not look outside." Michael, eyes down. The door opened behind him. Ellie came out with Ms. Vic from art. Ellie's chin touched her collarbone like she was hiding inside herself. She held her backpack like a shield. Ms. Vic counted her steps for her in a whisper. 1, 2, 3. When Ellie slid in and buckled, I finally breathed. She smelled like school soap and pencil shavings. Her glasses had fogged from the inside. "I was brave," she said. Her voice did a trick like it was bigger than her mouth. I chose to think that was the frog from yesterday's presentation still living in her throat. I didn't look at the playground even when Liam said there was a thing. "We're going home," I said. I didn't say good job because my voice would have broken. Principal Wilkes leaned enough to put his mouth by the window without lifting his eyes. "Cover your windows at home. Tape the edges. Don't answer voices even if," he swallowed like his throat forgot how, "even if you know them." "Is this everywhere?" He didn't answer the question I asked. He answered the one I was afraid of. "Count your steps from the truck to your door. If you feel the air buzz in your teeth, you went too far, back up. Try again." I nodded like we were agreeing about the PTA fundraiser and put the truck in drive. By the time I turned onto our street, the fog had leaned harder. Mailboxes were teeth. Lawns were slabs. I pulled into our driveway so precisely I could have submitted it for a forklift certification and set the brake. "You know the drill," I said. My voice surprised me by sounding like a man's. "Eyes down, backpack later, no talking on the porch. Count, count." We opened our doors together. The air smelled like a thunderstorm 3 towns over. We counted in a whisper which counted twice because whispers feel like magic. 1, 2, 3, 4. The key missed the lock once. Twice. The third time it found its house and we fell inside like swimmers over a boat's lip. The house felt too big all at once. We don't have a big house. It was just that the fog pressed its face to every window. The light it gave off wasn't bright. It was like refrigerator light you forgot to replace. I locked the door and then locked it again, even though that's not how locks work. "Operation Blanket," I said. "It's a dumb name Ellie made when she was 8 and loved operations, missions, directives, codes. We keep a drawer full of tape and old moving blankets just in case a winter storm tries to turn our living room into a wind tunnel." I ripped tape like a maniac and she handed me blankets like a nurse feeding instruments into a surgeon's hands. By the time we finished, the house had a heartbeat. My heartbeat, probably. The world went softer. We could hear ourselves again. Not much else. Ellie crawled into the den and turned on her string lights that looked like paper stars. The house glowed the way forts glow. My phone vibrated again. New alert. Do not look outside. Do not respond to familiar voices. Do not invite anyone in. Keep windows covered. Help is en route. I showed Ellie and watched her read each line like a spelling test. She breathed out and it shuddered and she almost cried and didn't. I put my hand on her head. She let me keep it there. We made hot chocolate because doing something ordinary is a sandbag against a flood. I burned my tongue and pretended I didn't. Ellie asked, "Do you hear that?" At first I didn't. Then I did, but not with my ears. It was down in the bones of my jaw. A faint hum like the power lines on July afternoons when the world flickers with heat. "Maybe the transformer," I said. The lie was little and warm, and I think she knew and let me have it. The hum rose a note, then settled like it was tuning itself. The first knock came gentle as rain. 3 taps on the front window beside the couch. Not loud, polite, like a neighbor who needs eggs. I put my mug down slowly and didn't look. "Dad," Ellie said. "Mm." Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice that wore a coat I knew too well. "Mike," it said, "it's me." The mug slid in my hand. The kitchen tiles cushioned it. It didn't break. The voice tried again. "Can you open the door? I left my purse." My ex has not stood on that porch in 3 years. She doesn't leave purses anywhere. That wasn't even what did it. It was the timing, the fog, the alerts, the knock like a metronome. Ellie stared at the tape over the window. She whispered, "She doesn't know our code." "What code?" I said, and then understood she wanted the house to have a code so we could trust anything again. I nodded like there had always been a code and said, "Exactly." The voice took a good long moment to think about how to be my ex better. When it spoke again, it wore a different jacket. "Principal Wilkes," it said. "Michael, please." Ellie left her sketchbook. "We can pass it through. Just crack the door." Ellie's hand found mine and braided our fingers until neither of us could tell whose knuckles were whose. "If we had a peephole," she whispered, "we could." "We don't," I said, "so we won't." Something touched the glass very gently like a spoon testing a custard. The hum in my teeth smiled. It felt like pressure you can't find the source of. The voice at the window loosened from words to breathe, and the breath sounded like it was learning how to breathe. "Art club," it said, "beautiful and wrong. 4:30. Honk, honk, honk." My heart rang like a dropped tool. Ellie squeezed so hard I thought she'd break my fingers. "We're going to make a fort," I said, "because you keep moving or you start thinking, and right now thinking was a cliff without a guardrail." We dragged the card table to the den and threw blankets over it and clipped the corners with clothespins and strung the paper stars inside. We crawled in together with the radio I keep for storms, 2 flashlights, and Mr. Whiskers, a stuffed rabbit that refuses to graduate to a shelf. Inside the fort, the air smelled like dust and cocoa. Outside the fort, the house breathed wrong. Every so often something brushed the siding like an apology. The battery radio found a band full of bees. Then one voice got through. A woman reading from a script someone wrote too fast. "Repeat. Do not look outside. Tape all windows. Do not respond to voices. If you feel vibration in your teeth, move to an interior room. Help is." The bees ate her. We didn't talk for a while. Someone walked past the house very slowly and stopped when their shoes were exactly across from our couch. Ellie pressed her forehead to my shoulder, and I told her a story about a princess who outlawed fog, which did not land because it was dumb and we both knew it. When I ran out of words, Ellie hummed the song her mom used to hum when there were storms, and I hummed harmony, because if we made our own hum, maybe the one in our teeth would have to back off. The voices tried the back door and the kitchen window and the slider off the dining room like salesmen with a route. Sometimes they were neighbors, sometimes strangers. Once my dad, dead 5 years, which is a level of mean I didn't know the world had. Time did a thing time does in hospitals and waiting rooms and midnights where it stops making sense. Ellie fell asleep with her mouth open like a kid again. The paper stars swayed though no air moved. My phone lit the blanket blue. Another alert, same all caps, one new line that pinched my chest closed. Direct eye contact causes compromise. Keep eyes down when moving between rooms. I opened the blanket flap an inch to listen. The hum had sharpened to a knife-edge whine that made my molars ache. From the hall, the thermostat clicked and the furnace didn't answer. Ellie rolled and bumped Mr. Whiskers under the card table, and said a word in her sleep I didn't catch. Something tapped the fort's blanket twice, right by my ear. Not the window, not the wall, the blanket. "Dad," Ellie said from beside me, except Ellie didn't say it. She slept warm and slack against my arm. The voice that said Dad came from the other side of our blanket, pitched almost right, missing the heartbeat in the middle of the word. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. The blanket dipped as if a finger traced where my face would be. The hum in my teeth swelled until it was all there was. "Mike," my own voice said back at me through the fabric, a half-second late, like a bad phone connection. "Open up." And that's when I understood the worst truth so far. It wasn't knocking to be let in. It was listening to learn how. Ellie woke me at 3:11 a.m. because she was humming in her sleep and the hum didn't match her mouth. She shook my shoulder, eyes wide behind fogged glasses. "Dad," I heard them counting. The fort was still standing, paper star lights dim, cocoa mug sticky on the rug. I blinked awake and tried to remember where we were on the clock. My phone said nothing helpful except the battery was at 38%. The last alert still glowed on the lock screen. "Do not look. Do not respond." "What do you mean counting?" I whispered. "They said 1, 2, 3 just like us, outside." She hugged Mr. Whiskers to her chest like a life preserver. "But they went higher than we did, to the porch." I pressed my ear against the blanket wall. The house breathed like a seashell. Somewhere a floorboard groaned, not in the pattern I knew. Our house has 4 bad boards, one in the upstairs hallway, 2 on the kitchen's left side, and 1 under the front window. This was none of them. Then, soft and polite, tap, tap, tap on the front door. Ellie's eyes brimmed, but she didn't cry. She mouthed again. The voice came careful and practiced. "It's MS. Vic." "Ellie, sweetheart, you left your sketchbook. Do you want it back?" Ellie's lips trembled. "She did have it," she whispered. "Not her," I said, sharper than I meant. "Do you hear the difference?" We held our breath. The thing tried again, smoother this time. "Michael, open the door. I'll just set it inside. Don't you want your daughter to have her art?" It said daughter too heavy, like the word had bones. Ellie's hand slipped into mine, small and cold. "They're learning." I nodded. "That's why we don't answer." The tap moved to the window. Fingernails, or what wanted to be fingernails, scraped across glass. Slow, testing. Then a whisper, not outside but right at the seam of the blanket. "Ellie." It was my voice. Wrong by half a heartbeat. "Count with me." She flinched. I squeezed her hand. "Not real, just noise." 4, 5, the copy whispered. I yanked the blanket door shut tighter. "Stay quiet," I breathed. "They can't come in unless we let them." The static in my teeth rose until I wanted to grind them into sparks. And then it stopped, too suddenly. I made the mistake of hoping it was over. A new sound bloomed from the porch. Heavy, rhythmic, metal sliding against wood. The deadbolt flexed. Ellie's mouth dropped open in a silent scream. She pointed to the gap at the floor. A hand, pale, jointed wrong, too many knuckles, slid under the door frame. Fingers stretched like roots searching for soil. The wood groaned. The lock shook. The rules had said they can't enter uninvited, but nobody said they couldn't reach. I grabbed the hammer from our storm kit and brought it down on the hand. The sound wasn't bone. It was wet static, like crushing a bag of potato chips underwater. The hand withdrew, twitching, leaving streaks of ash white across the threshold. Ellie clapped her hands over her ears. I wanted to. The whisper was back, louder now, a chorus of stolen voices overlapping. Neighbors, teachers, my dead father, all begging the same word. "Invite, invite, invite." The walls shook. The paper stars flickered. The house was no longer a house. It was a test, and we were failing. I pulled Ellie into my lap, pressed her face against my chest, and shouted over the static. "We do not invite." The sound cracked like a whip. Silence rushed in so fast my ears rang. Then a knock, just one, deliberate, on the window right beside the fort, and a voice that made my blood stop moving. "Mike, it's me. Open the door. I need to see her." It wasn't my ex, not my dad, not a neighbor. It was me. The exact timbre, the cough in the back of the throat, the same tired ache. "Mike," my own voice whispered from outside. "Let's just talk." Ellie's fingers dug into my shirt. "Daddy," she said, so small, "how do we know which one is you?" I couldn't answer, because for one terrible second I wasn't sure. The house never felt this alive. Not in the good way, like Christmas mornings when Ellie used to thunder down the stairs, or summer nights when cicadas made the siding hum. This was different. This was wrong. By midnight the voices had stopped trying names. Now it was just humming, a low, steady vibration that wasn't coming from outside anymore. It was inside the walls, riding the ductwork, trickling out of every vent. Ellie pressed her hands over her ears. "Dad, it's in my head." I felt it too, behind the eyes, like the pressure you get flying into Denver, except it pulsed with rhythm. Almost a song. We moved the fort to the hallway, away from windows, closer to the center of the house. I stuffed towels under every vent while Ellie taped over the bathroom fan. She asked if duct tape worked on ghosts. I told her yes, because it was easier than saying I don't know what these are. By 2 a.m., the humming grew words. At first I thought it was our names again, but when I pressed my ear to the vent, I realized it was backwards. A garbled recording of my own voice, syllables chopped and flipped. "L-e ecorbitinod." Ellie's flashlight beam shook. "It's copying you wrong." The thermostat clicked on by itself. The furnace groaned. The hum grew louder, filling the house until picture frames rattled. Then came the mirror. We'd covered the windows, but I'd forgotten the upstairs bathroom mirror, the one above the sink where I shave. I heard glass fogging, like someone's breath pressed against it. When I peeked into the hallway, I saw the door cracked and a pale mist curling from inside. "Stay," I whispered to Ellie. I picked up the hammer and nudged the door open. The mirror was white with condensation. Letters formed, slow and deliberate, like a finger was tracing from the other side. "Hello, Ellie." I slammed the door, but the sound didn't cut off. The fog inside the mirror pulsed with the hum. My reflection, shoulders, jawline, the tired slope of me, stood behind the glass, but its mouth was still moving after mine had closed. "Invite," it mouthed. "Invite, invite." Ellie screamed. The reflection turned its head toward the sound. I hadn't moved. The glass bulged like something pressing from behind. A crack snaked across the surface. I yanked Ellie back toward the fort. "No mirrors," I gasped. "A new rule. No mirrors, ever." The hum followed, crawling under the blankets. It climbed into my teeth until they buzzed. Ellie curled into me, sobbing quietly. "Dad," she whispered, "what happens if we look too long?" I didn't answer, because I had looked. Just a second too long. And in the reflection, the thing behind the glass had smiled. At 4:27 a.m., the hum cut out, not faded, cut, like a switch thrown. The silence was heavier than the noise, like the air had been stretched too tight and snapped back. Ellie stirred inside the blanket fort. "Is it over?" she whispered. I wanted to say yes, but silence that sudden isn't safety, it's waiting. Then from outside came the low whump-whump of helicopters. Real ones, not voices, not copies. I knew the sound in my bones from deployments a lifetime ago. Rotor wash, engines, orders shouted through megaphones. Ellie sat up, eyes wide. They came. Floodlights cut through the fog, harsh and white, slicing it into trembling columns. For the first time in 12 hours, the gray outside moved, retreating in shreds like smoke blown from a candle. I risked peeling back one corner of the blanket. Soldiers in full armor swept the cul-de-sac, movements sharp, precise, practiced. Each wore goggles that glowed faintly blue around the rims. Behind those lenses, their eyes shone alien, insect bright. One of them raised a megaphone. His voice cracked like thunder. "Residents, do not look directly at the entity. Stay inside until cleared. Keep windows covered." Ellie grabbed my arm. "They're real, you hear that? We weren't crazy." I wanted to believe. A knock rattled our front door, 3 sharp, coded raps. Not the polite tapping of before. Military rhythm. "Mr. Carter." A voice called, male, firm, with command in it. "This is Sergeant Keene, U.S. Army. We're clearing this block. We need you and your daughter to step outside with us." Ellie bolted upright. Finally, but my chest tightened. All the alerts had said the same thing. "Don't open, don't answer." "Prove it," I called, my voice rough. "Tell me the code from the alerts." A pause, then, "We don't use civilian codes, sir. That's for broadcast. We have equipment." A scrape of Velcro, something slid under the door, 2 sets of goggles, lenses glowing faint blue. "Put them on," the voice ordered. "That's how you'll know it's us." Ellie snatched hers up instantly, fumbling with the strap. I hesitated. The plastic was cold, too cold, like it had been left in snow. But when I pressed the goggles to my eyes and pulled the strap tight, the world shifted. The fog outside was no longer gray. Through the lenses it burned faint red, as if lit from within. And standing in it, hundreds of silhouettes. Tall, thin, crooked. They'd been there all along. Shapes that twitched like broken marionettes, moving too fast, then too still. Faces blurred and pale, heads tilted like they'd been caught mid-thought. Some pressed right up against the siding of our house, hands splayed, watching, waiting. Ellie gasped. "Dad, don't look long," the sergeant barked from outside. "Filters reduce exposure, but they are not perfect, just enough to get you clear." I yanked Ellie's head down. "Eyes on the floor, count your steps." We opened the door together. The air outside buzzed faintly, like standing under high-voltage wires. The soldiers flanked us, rifles raised, movements rigid. Floodlights kept the fog back in patches, but the red shapes seethed at the edges, dozens, maybe more, pacing like sharks beyond glass. Ellie squeezed my hand. "They hate the light." "Keep moving," the sergeant ordered. "Trucks waiting." We counted. 1, 2, 3. Shapes lunged at the edges of the light, stopped just short, as if held by invisible walls. Their heads snapped toward us in unison, necks bending too far. Even with goggles, I couldn't make out their faces, just pale ovals that pulsed like static screens. We reached the truck. Soldiers boosted us in, slammed the doors. The inside reeked of ozone and gun oil. A private shoved bottled water into my hand, already turning away. Ellie whispered, "Dad, look." Across the truck bed sat another soldier, helmet low, goggles glowing faintly. He was staring straight at us, too straight. And when the light shifted, I saw it. He had no reflection in the window behind him. The convoy rattled through streets that didn't look like streets anymore. Cars sat sideways. Lawns were just fog-stained red through the goggles. Every so often the shapes pressed at the edge of the light, hundreds of them twitching in sync like a broken choir. Ellie gripped my hand so tightly the goggles bit into my cheek. "Don't take them off," she whispered. "I won't," I lied. The strap already itched, the world too blue and wrong. The truck stopped at Cedar Ridge High, a fortress now. Portable barriers ringed the lot. Floodlights turned night into surgery bright day. Soldiers herded survivors through metal detectors stripped of power. Inside the gymnasium, the world was sweat, panic, and the sour tang of too many bodies. Rows of cots stretched wall to wall. Old banners for state basketball champions 1998 sagged above terrified faces. The soldiers repeated the same line to everyone. Keep goggles on. Don't answer voices. Don't invite. We found space near the bleachers. Ellie curled against me, still clutching Mr. Whiskers. For the first time in 24 hours, she let her eyes close. I kept mine open. Around us, survivors whispered stories. A woman said the fog had been thicker near the river, like it was feeding. A man swore his wife's voice called from their attic. His wife had been buried 3 years. Someone else claimed the shapes weren't strangers at all, but neighbors who'd already looked too long. The rules spread like gossip, like gospel. 1. Don't look outside. 2. Don't answer voices. 3. Don't invite anyone in. 4. Don't take the goggles off in the fog. I wanted to believe rules were enough. Then it happened. A woman near the middle cot's brown hair cardigan slipping off one shoulder jerked upright. It's him, she cried, pointing at the entrance. My husband, he made it. Every head turned. A man stood in the doorway. Jeans, windbreaker, face pale but familiar. He didn't wear goggles. He smiled like someone who'd just run a mile and found home waiting. 2 soldiers raised rifles instantly. Ma'am, back away, that perimeter isn't clear. But she was already moving. Tears streaked her face as she shoved past cots. No, you don't understand, that's really him, he found us. The man smiled wider, too wide. His teeth were wrong, too many, packed like keyboard keys. Invite me in, he said. His voice doubled, hers echoed inside it, overlapping. Invite me in, Claire. The gym erupted. People screamed. Soldiers shouted. The woman didn't stop. She ran to him, arms outstretched. And she said it, the words that unlocked everything. Come in. The thing stepped forward. It wasn't a man anymore. Its face blurred, then sharpened into hers, then his, then something else entirely. The teeth kept smiling. The soldiers fired, the sound deafening in the echoing gym, but bullets tore through fog that reformed instantly. People scrambled, knocking over cots. Children cried. Floodlights flickered. Ellie buried her face in my chest. Dad, don't let it find us. I pulled her close, goggles pressing hard into her hair. Around us, the gym dissolved into chaos, shouts, shots, prayers. Through the blue-tinted lenses, I saw the truth. The man-thing wasn't alone. Dozens of red silhouettes pressed at the gym's walls, waiting. And one of them had my face. The gym smelled like cordite and fear after the thing dissolved. Soldiers barked orders. Floodlights buzzed back to full, revealing cots overturned, kids clinging to parents, a woman sobbing into her cardigan sleeve. Ellie clutched Mr. Whiskers so tight his stitched smile looked strained. Dad, she whispered, they can get in anywhere, can't they? I didn't answer, because the truth was worse. They didn't need to get in. They just needed us to let them. By dawn, soldiers announced a stabilization. That was their word, but their faces stayed tight under the goggles. They ordered us to keep eyewear on, stay calm, and above all, do not respond to voices not physically verified. We tried. For half a day, the gym was quiet but tense. Volunteers handed out peanut butter crackers and water. Kids dozed. Adults sat in tight circles, whispering rules back and forth like rosaries. Then the lights flickered. A hum returned, not the full teeth-rattling buzz from the vents, but a low throb like the building itself was a heart beating too slow. The floodlights overhead pulsed once, twice, then died. Darkness swallowed us. Screams erupted instantly. Soldiers shouted, "Stay calm, hold positions." Flashlights stuttered across the bleachers, too weak against the cavernous black. Ellie's nails dug crescents into my arm. "Dad, stay close." I pulled her down between two cots, crouching low. The gym was chaos, boots pounding, radios hissing static, civilians crying out names. And then came the voices. Not the low adult calls from before. Higher, smaller, children, mommy. One piped, tremulous and sweet. "I'm lost, can you help me?" Someone gasped. I couldn't see who, but the sound carried. Another voice, this one a boy. "Dad, Dad, it's me, I can't see." The gym froze. Parents held their kids tighter. A woman near the back whimpered. A soldier's voice cracked like a whip. "Do not respond." But the voices kept coming, overlapping. Whining, pleading, crying, each perfect in tone, cadence, innocence. Ellie pressed her face to my chest, muffling her sob. "They sound like us." I hugged her tighter, my heart hammering. "That's not you, that's not any of us, remember the rules." And then, clear as glass cutting through the dark, came Ellie's own voice. From the shadows behind us. "Daddy, where are you, please? I'm scared." Ellie stiffened in my arms, her real body. The fake voice echoed again, closer. "Please, Daddy, hold my hand." I squeezed her shoulder. "You're right here, you know that, don't listen." But panic spread like fire. Somewhere across the gym a man shouted, "That's my son," and bolted into the dark. Soldiers tried to grab him, but he slipped through. His flashlight beam cut wide arcs before vanishing into black. Seconds later came a scream, short, wet, cut off. The gym erupted again. People crying, calling, soldiers firing warning shots into the ceiling. In the chaos, a sergeant mounted the bleachers and roared over the din. "New rule, no names in the dark." His voice cracked with urgency. "They can't copy what they don't hear. No names." That's how quickly rules were born, scrawled in terror, carved by loss. The floodlights coughed back to life all at once, stabbing white into every corner. The voices stopped. The man who'd run toward his son was gone. Only his overturned cot remained. Ellie stared at it, her lips trembling. "What happens to them, Dad? The ones who listen?" I didn't answer, because I had looked for just a second past the barrier of light. And in the red haze at the edge of the gym, one of the thin shapes was holding the man's flashlight. The gym felt smaller after the blackout. Every whispered breath carried weight. Every flicker of the floodlights brought shoulders tensing, waiting for voices. By morning, soldiers announced what we all knew: supplies were running thin. The safe house had been stocked for storms, not sieges. Medication was gone. Half the kids were coughing in the corners. Volunteers were requested for a pharmacy run. The word volunteer hung in the air like a dare. I felt Ellie's hand latch onto my sleeve. "Don't," she whispered, but I stood anyway, because I'd seen the hives under her eyes, the asthma inhaler in her backpack already wheezing empty, and because fathers are supposed to step forward when danger raises its head. A soldier, Private Nguyen, checked my goggle straps twice before shoving a rifle into my hands. "Don't fire unless told. Ammo's useless against them anyway." "Then why carry it?" I asked. He didn't smile. "Makes people feel better." The convoy rolled down Main Street in 2 Humvees, 10 volunteers, 4 soldiers. The fog hadn't lifted. Through the goggles it pulsed red, shapes pacing at the edges like wolves trailing a herd. The pharmacy loomed out of the soup, Cedar Ridge Family Drugs, neon sign half dead. Its windows had been smashed days earlier. Inside, shelves leaned, products scattered. The smell of rot clung to the carpet. The silence pressed. We worked fast. Soldiers kept flashlights sweeping. Volunteers filled duffel bags with antibiotics, insulin, whatever we could grab. That's when I saw it. Nguyen was crouched at the cooler in back. A mason jar sat on the floor beside him. Inside it, fog, not drifting fog but contained. It pressed against the glass like breath on a window, pulsing faintly, static whispering from within. "Jesus," I muttered. "You can keep it." Nguyen's jaw tightened. "Command wants samples for study." The fog in the jar shivered, then spoke. Not words, my daughter's laugh. High, clear, innocent. Ellie's laugh replayed perfectly from some afternoon I didn't remember. The jar jumped in his hand, rattling the lid. He swore and twisted it tighter. "Don't listen, don't ever listen." I staggered back. "That thing it records everything. Every sound, every word, like a tape you can't erase." I stared at the rows of broken pill bottles, at the fog bleeding through every crack in the walls. "So it's learning us." He didn't answer. On the drive back, I kept my eyes locked on the duffel of medicine between my boots. Not the jar, not the way it pulsed. But halfway home, when the Humvee slowed at a barricade, I swear I heard it again, Ellie's voice muffled from inside the glass. "Daddy," it giggled, "invite me out." I gripped the rifle tighter, knuckles white, because if fog could be bottled, it could be freed. And someone someday would be stupid enough to unscrew the lid. They said we shouldn't go back, but I knew we had to. The safe house had medicine now, food rationed out, and rules enforced by rifles. But it couldn't give Ellie what she asked me for in a whisper that night. "Can we go home just for a little? Mr. Whiskers still smells like our house. I don't want to forget it." So at dusk, under escort of 2 soldiers and their pale blue goggles, we returned to Cedar Ridge Drive. The cul-de-sac lay smothered in gray. Our house crouched small and dark, blankets still taped to every window. The Andersons' house next door leaned against the fog like it was sinking into it. Something waited at their front door, not a person paper. A note nailed into the wood with trembling precision. "Use the basement." The letters were uneven, scrawled in Sharpie like whoever wrote them had been shaking. One soldier muttered, "We shouldn't be here." But Ellie tugged my sleeve. "Dad, what if they left us something?" The basement door was half open. We went down. The air was damp, metallic. Flashlights cut across concrete walls covered in sheets of notebook paper, taped in frantic layers. Scribbles everywhere. "Don't look at screens." Mirrors are doors. They can only copy what we give them. On a table sat a laptop. Its screen was cracked, but the webcam light glowed steady green. A blanket had been nailed over the monitor as if to blind it. Beside it, journals, pages full of diagrams of eyes, angles, and sketches of those tall, thin shapes bending through door frames. Ellie's hand hovered over one entry dated just 3 days before. "Reflections bleed both ways. Don't test too long. It sees through angles, not glass. Monitors, mirrors, even polished spoons. Anything that can give back an image gives them a way in." I shut the book, my hand shook. Behind us, the laptop fan whirred louder. The blanket shifted, just slightly. Something underneath it moved. The soldier raised his rifle. "Back, now." A hiss leaked from the speakers, static shaped into syllables. "Michael," my name, drawn out, stretched wrong. Ellie gasped. "Dad, it sounds like the mirror." The blanket sagged inward as if a face pressed from the other side of the screen, features blurred, mouth too wide. The soldier fired. The laptop exploded in sparks, the blanket catching flame. The smell of melting plastic filled the basement. In the flickering light, I saw another note taped to the far wall. My chest clenched when I read it. "Don't let them hear your stories, they make them real." We stumbled back upstairs into the fog-heavy night. Ellie clung to me, eyes wide. "Dad," she whispered, What if they are already in our house in the mirrors? I had no answer, because when I glanced through the blue tint of my goggles, I saw it. In the dark window of our home across the street, our bedroom window, something tall was already standing there waiting. Safe houses aren't built for silence. Gyms are meant to echo, sneakers squeaking, whistles blowing, the rumble of crowds. But now every sound carried weight. Every cough, every breath, every scrape of chair legs made shoulders tighten. Ellie curled against me on our cot. Her goggles hung crooked around her neck. She hated sleeping with them on, but I kept mine strapped tight. I didn't dare. That's when the speakers cracked alive. The PA system in the gym had been dead for days. Now it hissed, a static swell that made teeth ache. Soldiers scrambled, checking wires, radios. Then a voice cut through, not human, not machine, something in between. Mike Ha-El, my name again, warped, dragged across gravel. The crowd erupted, screams, prayers, shouts. Floodlights flickered, but the soldiers kept rifles steady, barking, "Ignore it, stay calm." Then another sound, lower, steadier. A bass hum like engines buried underground. The radios on the soldiers' belts all crackled in unison. A man in fatigues ran to the mic stand at center court. "New protocol," he shouted. "Signal Corps is testing frequency sweeps. Low band may disrupt interference. Stay quiet." He twisted a dial. The speakers shrieked, then settled into a heavy drone. The hum in my teeth lessened. For the first time in days, I felt pressure ease. People sighed, some even cried with relief. But through the drone came whispers, not feedback, not random static. Whispers in rhythm. Ellie's head snapped up. "Dad, it's saying something." I strained to hear. The words were faint, stretched, but they were there, repeated between bursts of static over and over. "Welcome." The soldiers froze, one cursed under his breath. The voice continued, louder each cycle, twisting in pitch until it filled the gym. "Welcome, welcome, welcome." People covered ears, some shouted back, "Shut it off." A few cried, "They're inviting us." I grabbed Ellie close, heart slamming. The rules roared in my head: don't respond, don't acknowledge, don't invite. But the word kept hammering, drilling past ears into bone. "Welcome." A soldier yanked the plug. Silence dropped like a blade. The gym was a grave. Even children didn't cry. Everyone sat in the buzzing silence, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. Ellie whispered against my chest, so soft only I heard. "Dad, what if that's all they need? Not a door, not a window, just a word." I stroked her hair, but my hands shook. Because I was afraid she was right. And because in the corner of the gym, near the taped-over windows, I thought I saw lips moving in the fog, forming the same word. They picked us up before dawn. The plan, they said, was to escort a convoy north to the old Hilltop repeater station. If the low-band frequency sweep worked in the gym, then broadcasting it across the county might hold the fog at bay, or at least buy us time. Volunteers were invited to come. The way the sergeant said invited made my stomach twist. I volunteered anyway. I couldn't stand another night in that gym, listening to the fog press against the windows and whisper welcome. Ellie clung to my sleeve until the last moment. "Don't look at anything weird," she begged. "Promise." I promise. I didn't tell her that everything was weird now. The convoy rolled out at 0600. 5 Humvees, a deuce-and-a-half truck carrying signal gear, 24 soldiers, and 6 of us civilians packed in the middle like fragile cargo. Through the goggles, Main Street glowed faint red, fog rolling between buildings like ink dropped in water. Floodlights mounted on Humvees pushed it back just enough to carve a road. That's when we saw them. Figures lined the sidewalks on both sides. Dozens, maybe hundreds. At first glance, they looked like mannequins propped up for some forgotten parade. Stiff-limbed, dressed in rags, each holding a flag, a balloon, a paper sign. Faces pale, indistinct, blurred by fog. They didn't move. They just stood, in perfect rows, like the town had turned itself into an audience. One of the volunteers muttered, "Holy God." Eyes down, barked a soldier. "Don't fix on them." But it was impossible not to glance. The figures were everywhere, filling doorways, sitting on rooftops, crowding porches. A still life of humanity frozen mid-celebration. The convoy slowed, tires crunched broken glass, radios hissed. I forced my eyes to the floor of the truck. 1, 2, 3, counting steps even when I wasn't walking just to keep sane. Then something changed. A balloon popped, sharp, sudden, too real. My head jerked up before I could stop it. One of the figures was grinning, its lips peeled back too wide and its hand lifted in a slow, jerky wave. I swore under my breath. Others saw it too. The air in the truck went sharp with panic. The sergeant barked again, "Don't look, they want eyes." The convoy accelerated, engines roaring. Figures blurred past, rows and rows of frozen watchers. But more were moving now. Hands twitching, heads turning, eyes following. And then ahead the repeater tower loomed, black steel cutting into the sky. Relief flooded me until I saw the glow. The tower already hummed. Through the goggles, its steel beams pulsed red, alive with the same static light as the entities. And clinging to its frame like ornaments on a diseased Christmas tree were dozens of thin, crooked shapes, watching us, waiting. One peeled its head away from the tower and turned. Its mouth stretched open, wider than its face, and the hum in my teeth returned, sharper than ever. The repeater station wasn't meant for people. It was concrete and rebar poured in the '70s, a bunker built for storms and the Cold War. Now it held something worse. They herded us inside through a blast door, soldiers scanning the fog with their blue-lit goggles until the last possible second. The humming tower above groaned like an old engine, its red pulse bleeding through the steel walls. Inside, flood lamps buzzed, generators roared. The air smelled of ozone and dust. Rows of cots lined the entry hall, already filled with shivering survivors ferried in overnight. But what caught my eye was the basement. Down 2 flights of stairs, past a security gate covered in warnings scrawled by hand, no eye contact, no glass unfiltered, no unverified speech. They kept the experiments. One soldier muttered it was Command's mirror program. I didn't like the sound of that. The mirror room was colder than the rest of the bunker. White cinder block walls, bare floor, and in the center, a square of mirrors bolted together, each one tilted at a slightly different angle, forming a prism of reflections. Floodlights glared down, bouncing off surfaces until the whole room shimmered like a fractured lake. "They don't cast reflections," said a technician in a hazmat hood. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "But they borrow them, that's the difference." "What does that mean?" I asked. He gestured at the glass. "Look for yourself. Just don't look too long." I hesitated. Ellie's warning rang in my head, "Don't look at anything weird," but curiosity has teeth and fear makes you want proof. I stepped closer. At first I saw nothing, just myself multiplied, angles repeating my tired eyes and frayed clothes. Then one reflection lagged behind. My left hand lifted half a second late. My mouth stayed closed while the mirror mouth whispered, "Invite." I stumbled back, heart hammering. The technician scribbled on a clipboard. "Latency's increasing. They're getting better at sync." Ellie's small voice broke the air behind me. "Dad." I spun. She'd followed, goggles crooked, Mr. Whiskers dangling from her arm. Her reflection in the nearest mirror didn't move at all. It just stared. And then it smiled, too wide, too knowing. The technician slammed a red button on the wall. Metal shutters dropped over the mirrors with a crash. Out, everybody out. The floodlights flickered. The humming grew louder, filling my teeth. As soldiers hustled us back up the stairs, I risked one last glance over my shoulder. The mirrors were sealed, but I swear I saw shapes pressing from inside the shutters, warping the metal like hands against thin ice. And one of them had my daughter's face. By the second night in the repeater bunker, exhaustion had turned fear into something dull and sharp at once. People dozed in corners with goggles still strapped on, jerking awake from dreams they couldn't admit out loud. Ellie clung to me every time the lights flickered. Mr. Whiskers was threadbare now, ears damp from her hands. That's when Command made their announcement. They herded us into the operations hall, a concrete chamber lined with radios, monitors, and maps scrawled with red X's. A major in fatigue stood before the crowd. "We believe they understand exchange," he said. "They respond to structure, to offers." Murmurs rippled. The major raised a hand. "Tonight we attempt controlled contact. We will offer something they want in return for a corridor of safe passage. This is not surrender, this is strategy." "What do they want?" someone shouted. His silence was worse than an answer. At 2,300 hours, the attempt began. A radio sat on the table, jury-rigged to transmit through the tower's humming pulse. Floodlights buzzed overhead. Soldiers lined the walls, rifles steady but useless. The major keyed the mic. "This is Command. We propose an exchange. Release the perimeter in Sector 3. In return, we—" The static swallowed his voice. Then through every speaker at once came laughter. Not hollow, not monstrous. Familiar. Ellie's laughter. High, bright. The same giggle she used when I burned pancakes on Tuesday mornings. I froze, my throat locked. Ellie's eyes went wide. She clamped her hands over her mouth as if afraid the laugh had escaped from her own chest. The major slammed the mic. "Identify yourselves." The laughter stopped. Silence. Then, "Daddy," Ellie's voice, my daughter's voice, perfect. But Ellie was beside me, trembling, clutching Mr. Whiskers so tight I thought the seams would burst. "Daddy," the voice repeated. "We can help. Invite us. Trade with us." People stirred. One woman sobbed openly. Another man muttered, "It knows names now." The major's face tightened. "Do not respond. Hold your ground." But the voice kept going, soft and coaxing. "Let us in, Daddy. We'll open the road. We'll let you leave. Just say it. Just invite." Ellie buried her face against me. Her real voice was muffled, broken. "Don't answer. Please, Dad, don't." The floodlights flickered. The shutters over the mirror room below groaned. Radios squealed. The exchange wasn't an offer. It was a trap. And they were using my daughter's voice to bait the hook. Morning came without sunlight. Inside the repeater bunker, time had become fluorescent and stale air, people counting meals instead of hours. I woke to Ellie coughing into Mr. Whiskers' fur. The inhaler I'd salvaged rattled nearly empty. Her eyes looked too big behind fogged goggles. "Dad," she whispered, "why do they want us? Why kids?" I had no answer. Later that day, soldiers ordered us to help clear storage in the lower levels, old records from when the station doubled as an emergency archive. That's when I found it. A clipboard wedged behind a filing cabinet, its papers warped by damp. The top sheet was a ledger, handwritten in hurried block letters. Cedar Ridge street names filled the columns, each with house numbers scrawled beside them. Next to some, a circle. Next to others, a jagged line like lightning. And in the margin, a note in red pen. Child present priority. My chest tightened, I flipped pages, more addresses, schools, daycares, even bus routes. Ellie peered over my arm. "Dad, that's our street." Her finger pointed, trembling. 47 Cedar Ridge Drive, our house, circled twice. I shoved the ledger against my chest like hiding it could erase what I'd seen. It's just notes, old evacuation plans. But I knew better. These weren't human markings. The handwriting stuttered in ways that didn't match a hand. Letters repeated themselves, strokes overlapping, like someone imitating the act of writing without understanding. The ledger wasn't written by us. It was written about us. That night, whispers returned in the bunker vents. Soft, sing-song voices reciting names. Not random names, not first names. Addresses. One by one, street by street. I clutched Ellie tighter as a cold shiver climbed my spine. They weren't hunting blindly. They had a list, and we were on it. By now, the rules covered half the bunker walls. Don't look, don't answer, don't invite, don't use names in the dark. But the rules kept growing, scrawled on notebook paper, taped over cinder block, each born from someone's mistake. The next one came from glass. It started small. A boy in the corner, 10 maybe, stared too long at his tablet. The screen was black, power drained days ago. But he swore he saw cartoons flicker across it, frames from memory, SpongeBob, Adventure Time, scenes only a child would crave. His mother tugged it from his hands. "It's dead," she snapped. "Stop pretending." He didn't answer, just kept smiling at the blank screen. That night he was gone, his cot empty. The tablet cracked, smeared with condensation from the inside. After that, the soldiers began confiscating electronics. Phones, laptops, anything with a reflective surface. It wasn't enough. Mirrors in the bathrooms were covered, but spoons glinted, polished belt buckles shone. Even puddles of standing water in the utility tunnels rippled with faint light. Every reflection became suspect. I learned the truth when Ellie dropped her thermos. The stainless steel rolled across the floor, caught the floodlight just right. For an instant I saw her reflection, then a second Ellie behind it, pale and too still, lips moving soundlessly. I snatched the thermos up before she noticed, but my heart wouldn't slow. Later in the operations hall, I confronted a technician. "You knew." He didn't deny it, just nodded grimly. "Any glass, any surface that gives an image, it's a potential aperture. Not a window, more like hunger. The longer you look, the hungrier it gets. Why didn't you warn us?" He tapped the ledger of rules pinned to the wall. "We only know once someone breaks it." That night, whispers threaded through the bunker again. Not from vents this time, from surfaces. Every reflective scrap shimmered faintly red through our goggles. Shiny boots, shards of broken glass, even the face of my watch. The whispers weren't words at first, just a susurrus, a longing, then clearer. "Look, look, look." I smashed my watch against the floor until the crystal cracked. Others did the same, breaking glasses, spoons, anything that caught the light. The gym rang with destruction. Ellie clung to me, voice small. "What if we miss one?" I held her close, eyes darting to every gleam in the room. "Then we don't look at it, ever." The soldiers added a new sheet to the wall. Black marker, bold letters. Rule 5, don't stare at glass. But even as they taped it up, I felt eyes crawling across my skin, because I knew rules weren't enough. The glass was hungry, and hunger doesn't wait forever. By the 15th day, fear had curdled into desperation. The bunker was crowded, air heavy with sweat and metal. Medicine dwindled, food rationed to crumbs. And outside, the fog pressed harder every night, red silhouettes multiplying through the goggles until it seemed there were more of them than of us. That's when command broke the unbreakable. "We're going to invite one in," the major said. The room erupted. People shouted, cursed, begged. A mother fainted. "Quiet." His voice cracked like a rifle shot. "We've reinforced a chamber with triple-layered ballistic glass, filters on every surface. We control the conditions. We need intelligence, something more than rules scratched on walls. If they want a bargain, we'll make them bargain on our terms." The chamber was built in the old records vault. Thick concrete, narrow entrance, reinforced viewport. Floodlights blazed from every corner. Ellie wasn't allowed near it. She clung to me in the hallway, whispering, "Don't let them trick you, Dad." "I won't." But her eyes said she didn't believe me. The ritual was simple, if that's the word. A soldier keyed the mic, voice trembling. "We invite one inside under glass for exchange." The temperature dropped, every radio squealed. Then it came. A figure stepped through the fog as if peeling out of static. Tall, crooked, pale, its movements stuttered like frames missing in a film reel. It stopped just beyond the viewport, head cocked. "Welcome," it whispered. The glass vibrated, my teeth ached. Through the goggles it burned red, body a smear of wrong angles, but its face, it shifted, flickered, borrowing, first my father, then my ex-wife, then Ellie. I pressed a hand to the reinforced glass. "Why us?" My voice cracked. "Why children?" The thing smiled with my daughter's mouth. "Attention is food," it said, voice like overlapping channels. "Eyes are doors. Stories are seeds. You tell us, you make us." The technician beside me scribbled furiously. "It's self-propagating, a mimetic entity." The thing leaned closer, features blurring. "You are farmers, we are the harvest. You invite us every time you remember." My stomach dropped. Memories, stories, even speaking about them was fuel. "What happens if we look at you?" I forced the question. Its smile widened, stretching past the edges of its face. "Then you join the story." The floodlights flickered, the glass trembled, and for just one heartbeat I looked straight into its eyes. The goggles flared white, my vision filled with static. For an instant I saw everything, thousands of faces pressed against thousands of windows, whispering, waiting, begging to be invited. Then soldiers yanked me back, shouting. The shutters slammed down. The chamber sealed. My breath came ragged, heart pounding. Ellie's voice echoed in my head, but she wasn't speaking. She was staring at me from across the hall, mister. Whiskers clutched to her chest. "Dad," she whispered, "why are your eyes shining?" The moment I looked, something changed. The goggles shielded me, but not completely. Ever since, light felt wrong, too sharp, too alive. Every time Ellie caught my gaze, she flinched like she saw static in my eyes. I lied to her, just tired, but in the silence of the bunker I could hear the hum inside me now. At dawn, command issued the order. "All units prepare for dawn protocol." No speeches, no comfort. Just the sound of generators being shut down, one by one, plunging the bunker into real darkness for the first time. The plan was desperate. Cut the power grid county-wide, kill every bulb, every screen, every reflection. Seal windows with paper metal paint, smother every possible door. If the things fed on sight and sound, then the only weapon left was starvation. Ellie clutched my sleeve. "No more lights." I forced a nod. "We'll make our own." I handed her a flashlight, but the batteries had hours at best. Above us, the city died. Through the bunker vents we heard it, the ripple of silence as streetlights winked out, televisions darkened, cell towers went quiet. And the fog screamed, not with mouths but with absence, like 1,000 radios losing signal at once. The air rattled in our bones. Children covered their ears. Soldiers clamped helmets tighter. Then came the pounding. Every wall, every shutter, every barricade. Pale hands slapping, claws scraping, voices begging, imitating the bunker shook. Invite. Welcome. Daddy. Ellie buried her face in Mr. Whiskers. I pulled her close, whispering the only rule that mattered now: we don't open, no matter what. Hours passed, the pounding faded, the whispers thinned. By nightfall, only silence remained. When soldiers finally opened the blast doors, dawn crept in, not golden, not warm. A weak gray light filtered through a sky washed empty. The fog was gone, but so were half the houses. Streets looked hollow, windows melted, mirrors blackened as if burned from within. We were herded onto trucks, told the words everyone longed for: evacuation complete, containment successful, protocol holds. But I knew better, because as we rolled past Cedar Ridge Elementary, Ellie squeezed my hand and whispered, "Dad, don't look." I risked a glance anyway. In the dark window of her old classroom, something pale stood perfectly still, watching us go. And when I blinked, I swore it smiled with my own mouth. That night in the relocation shelter miles away, I opened a notebook. Hands trembling, I wrote everything: the fog, the rules, the voices, the mirrors, the glass. Because people needed to know. Because stories keep us alive. But when I finished the last page, I remembered what the thing in the mirror room had said: stories are seeds. Ellie stirred in her sleep, murmuring, "Once upon a time." My pen hovered. I forced the notebook shut. Some stories shouldn't be told.